You're too old, Grandma. Nobody cares what you think anymore. Those words hit me like a slap across the face. I'm sitting here now, 6 months later, and I can still hear them ringing in my ears. My own grandson, the boy I helped raise, the child I fed when his parents were too busy, the young man I supported through college, looked me dead in the eyes and said those words. He had no idea what he had just started. My name is Cordelia Mae Patterson, and I'm 78 years old. But let me tell you something right now, age is just a number, and some of us old folks have tricks up our sleeves that would make your head spin. Before I tell you how I completely destroyed my grandson's entire year, let me tell you who Cordelia Patterson really is. I wasn't always a grandmother sitting in a rocking chair. I was a bank manager for 35 years. I handled millions of dollars, managed entire teams, and solved problems that would make grown men cry. I raised 4 children mostly by myself after my husband died young. I put 3 of them through college working 2 jobs. I've seen wars, recessions, family fights, and business deals that would make your jaw drop. I've buried friends, survived cancer twice, and rebuilt my life more times than I can count. But somehow, my family started seeing me as just old Grandma Cordelia. That was their first mistake. My grandson Tyler is 24 years old. He's my daughter Sarah's boy, and he used to be such a sweet child. But somewhere along the way, success went to his head. Tyler got a good job at a tech company right out of college. Started making decent money and suddenly thought he knew everything about everything. He moved into a fancy apartment, bought an expensive car, and started acting like he was better than the rest of us. The family gatherings got uncomfortable. Tyler would show up late, spend the whole time on his phone, and roll his eyes whenever us older folks talked. He'd make comments about outdated thinking and keeping up with the times. But I watched. I listened. I remembered everything. It was Thanksgiving dinner. The whole family was there, my 3 children, their spouses, 5 grandchildren, and even 2 great-grandchildren. I had spent 3 days cooking, cleaning, and preparing everything just right. Tyler walked in 2 hours late. No apology, no explanation. He grabbed a plate, loaded it up, and sat down at the table already scrolling through his phone. I asked him to put the phone away so we could say grace and talk as a family. That's when he looked up at me with those cold eyes and said it. You're too old, Grandma. Nobody cares what you think anymore. This old-fashioned family dinner stuff is outdated. Why don't you just accept that times have changed? The whole table went quiet. My daughter Sarah looked embarrassed but didn't say anything. My other children just stared at their plates. Nobody stood up for me. That's when I knew exactly what I had to do. That night, after everyone left and I was cleaning up the dishes alone, I sat down and really thought about Tyler's words. He was right about one thing: times had changed. But he was dead wrong about something else. He thought being old meant being powerless. He thought age meant I was weak, confused, or out of touch. What Tyler didn't know was that I had been watching him very carefully for months. I knew about his spending habits, his work situation, his social life, and his big dreams. I knew about things he thought nobody else knew. And I had resources he couldn't even imagine. The plan started simple, but as I thought about it more, it grew into something beautiful and terrible at the same time. The next few weeks, I became a detective in my own family. I started asking innocent questions during phone calls. I listened carefully to every story, every complaint, every little detail about Tyler's life. I learned that Tyler was living paycheck to paycheck despite his good salary. He was spending everything on his expensive lifestyle: the fancy apartment, the car payments, the designer clothes, the expensive dinners and nights out. I found out he had been bragging at work about his brilliant ideas and taking credit for other people's work. I discovered he had been lying to his girlfriend Emma about his finances, pretending to be much wealthier than he really was. Most importantly, I learned that Tyler was up for a big promotion at work. This promotion meant everything to him: more money, more status, more of the success that had made him so arrogant. That's when I knew exactly how to destroy his entire year. But before I tell you how I ruined his entire year, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing your responses. Now back to the story. My first move was simple but effective. I called Tyler's company. You see, Tyler had forgotten something important about his dear old grandmother. I still had connections from my banking days. One of my old colleagues, Janet, now worked in HR at a major consulting firm. Tyler's company used this firm for their big projects. I called Janet and had a lovely chat about old times. During our conversation, I mentioned how proud I was of my grandson Tyler and asked if she knew anyone at his company. Turns out, she knew Tyler's boss quite well. Janet mentioned that she'd heard some interesting stories about a young man named Tyler who had been taking credit for other people's work. She wondered if this was the same Tyler I was so proud of. I told her I hoped not, because that would be terrible behavior that I would never tolerate from my family. Within a week, Tyler's boss started paying closer attention to his work. Questions were being asked about his recent projects. People were being interviewed about who really came up with certain ideas. Tyler called me, stressed and confused. "Grandma, something weird is happening at work. They're asking all these questions about my projects." I played the concerned grandmother perfectly. "Oh honey, that sounds stressful. Maybe they're just being thorough because they're considering you for that promotion you mentioned." He felt better after our talk. He had no idea that his loving grandmother had just lit the fuse on the bomb that would blow up his career. But that was just the beginning. Tyler loved social media. He was always posting pictures of his expensive lifestyle, bragging about his success, showing off his fancy apartment and car. What Tyler didn't know was that I had been learning about social media too. My great-niece taught me how to use different apps and websites. I had been watching Tyler's posts for months, taking screenshots, saving everything. I created a fake account with a photo of a young woman. I started following Tyler and his friends. I liked his posts, commented on his pictures, and slowly built up a fake relationship with him online. Tyler, being the kind of man who thought he was irresistible, started messaging this fake woman. He bragged about his money, lied about his success, and even complained about his old-fashioned family that didn't understand him. He had no idea he was confessing everything to his grandmother. Remember how I mentioned Tyler was living paycheck to paycheck? Well, I decided to make his financial situation a little more interesting. I had kept all my old banking connections over the years. I knew people at credit card companies, loan offices, and financial institutions all over the city. I started making some phone calls. Nothing illegal, mind you. Just sharing some concerns about my grandson's spending habits with people who might be interested in that information. Suddenly, Tyler's credit cards started getting declined. His loan applications were being rejected. His bank started asking questions about his account activity. The expensive lifestyle he had been using to impress everyone was falling apart, and he couldn't figure out why. Tyler's girlfriend Emma was a sweet girl. I had met her a few times at family events, and I actually liked her. She was smart, kind, and deserved much better than Tyler's lies. I decided Emma needed to know the truth about her boyfriend. I sent Emma an anonymous letter with copies of Tyler's social media messages to my fake account. In these messages, Tyler had bragged about lying to his girlfriend about money, and had even made some very disrespectful comments about her. I also included photos of Tyler's real financial situation, his declined credit cards, his rejected loan applications, and evidence of his real spending habits. Emma was not happy when she found out Tyler had been lying to her for months. By now, Tyler's boss had finished investigating the complaints about stolen credit for work projects. The investigation revealed that Tyler had indeed been taking credit for other people's ideas, and had been lying about his contributions to several major projects. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more piece of information that would seal Tyler's fate at work. Remember those social media messages where Tyler complained about his job and made fun of his boss and coworkers? I had screenshots of all of them. I sent these screenshots to Tyler's boss from another anonymous account, along with a note saying that these messages were being shared around social media and making the company look bad. Tyler's promotion was cancelled immediately. Instead of getting promoted, he was put on probation and told that his job was in danger. Within 2 months of that Thanksgiving dinner, Tyler's entire life was crumbling. His girlfriend had broken up with him after confronting him about his lies. His credit was ruined, and he couldn't afford his expensive lifestyle anymore. He had to move out of his fancy apartment and sell his car. His job was hanging by a thread, and everyone at work was treating him differently. Tyler was stressed, confused, and desperate. He had no idea how everything had gone wrong so quickly. He started calling family members, looking for help and support. He called his parents, his siblings, and finally, he called me. "Grandma," he said, his voice shaking, "everything is falling apart. I don't know what to do. My whole life is a mess." I listened with sympathy, making all the right grandmother noises. "Oh honey, that sounds terrible. What do you think went wrong?" Tyler poured his heart out to me over the phone. He talked about losing his girlfriend, his money problems, his work troubles. He sounded broken and desperate. Then he said something that made my heart race with satisfaction. "Grandma, I've been thinking about what I said at Thanksgiving dinner. I was really mean to you, and I'm sorry. I said you were too old and that nobody cared what you thought. That was wrong of me." I waited, letting the silence stretch out. "The truth is," Tyler continued, "I could really use your advice right now. You've lived through a lot, and maybe I should have listened to you more." That's when I knew it was time for the final blow. "Tyler," I said softly, "I need to tell you something important." "Tyler, do you remember what you said to me at Thanksgiving dinner?" "Yes, Grandma, and I'm really sorry about that. You said I was too old, and that nobody cared what I thought anymore." "I was wrong, Grandma. I was being stupid and mean." "Tyler," I said, my voice getting stronger, "those were your last words before I decided to destroy your entire year." The silence on the phone was deafening. "What do you mean?" he whispered. "I mean that everything that has happened to you in the past 2 months, your girlfriend leaving, your money problems, your work troubles, that was all me." I told him everything. How I had used my connections to destroy his credit and expose his lies at work. How I had created fake social media accounts to gather evidence of his bad behavior. How I had made sure Emma found out about his lies and disrespect. "You thought I was just some old woman who didn't matter anymore," I said. "You forgot that this old woman had 35 years of banking experience, connections throughout the city, and more tricks than you could ever imagine." Tyler was crying now. "Grandma, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." "Oh, but you did mean it," I replied. "And now you know exactly what this too old grandmother is capable of." I wasn't completely heartless. After Tyler had learned his lesson, I helped him start to rebuild his life. But he had to earn it. Tyler had to apologize to everyone at work that he had stolen credit from. He had to take responsibility for his lies and his behavior. He had to move back in with his parents and start living within his means. Most importantly, he had to treat his family, especially his elders, with the respect we deserved. It took Tyler almost a full year to get his life back on track. His credit slowly improved, he found a new job where he had to start over at the bottom, and he eventually found a new girlfriend who he treated with honesty and respect. But Tyler never forgot the lesson his too old grandmother taught him. At the next Thanksgiving dinner, Tyler was the first one to arrive. He helped me cook, he set the table, and when it was time to say grace, he asked if I would lead the prayer. "Grandma," he said in front of the whole family, "I want everyone to know that you are the smartest, strongest person I know. I was an idiot to think that age made you weak or unimportant. He looked around the table at all our family members. Everyone here should know that Grandma Cordelia is not someone you want to mess with. She taught me that the people you think are too old might be the very ones still capable of outsmarting you. The whole family laughed, but Tyler wasn't laughing. He was deadly serious. I learned the hard way that respect isn't about age, it's about recognizing wisdom, experience, and the power that comes from living a full life. Grandma didn't just destroy my year, she saved my future by teaching me how to be a better man. As I looked around that table at my family, my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, I felt proud. Not just of my revenge, but of the lesson it taught. Never underestimate your elders. We've lived longer, seen more, and learned tricks that young people haven't even dreamed of yet. We built the world you're living in, and we're not done teaching lessons yet. Tyler's words on that Thanksgiving were his last words before I destroyed his year. But more importantly, they were the beginning of him becoming the kind of man I always knew he could be. Remember this story the next time you think someone is too old to matter. We old folks are still here, we're still watching, and we're definitely still capable of surprising you. Age brings wisdom, connections, and patience. And sometimes, the combination can be more powerful than all the youth and arrogance in the world. Tyler learned that the hard way. But in the end, we both won. He became a better person, and I proved that nobody, absolutely nobody, should ever underestimate Grandma Cordelia.